Hey there folks! So today we're going to be carving something that looks like this. This is probably the better known as the 5-minute wizard or the simplest carving ever. This is actually the first carving, one of the first carving styles that I ever did. And well, we're going to be using this stencil to make them. So I know what you're thinking, this is already super simple, and yes, we are going to oversimplify it by using this guy. So this all kind of came about because my wife started to carve, and well, she started to make her carving and then realized that the eyes were not at the right height and that these lines were not very good, and the beard and the mustache weren't at the right heights, and it just wasn't jiving well with her. So we decided to make something like this. So this guy was not made using the stencil, and you can see that it's missing some of the features that this guy has. So for one, the mustache is not as deep, right where the mouth is. It also doesn't have these beard lines up here, so actually it looks a little weird. So we've incorporated that into the stencil. That way you don't forget any of those pieces, which is excellent. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So for this, we're gonna need a 1-inch block piece of wood that we cut onto a corner, like that. So if you have some way of cutting it, ripping it down the middle like that with a bandsaw, then all the better. Otherwise, you could probably just do it on the actual block uncut, and you'll just have another face that you'll be able to put another face on. So anyway, we're just going to use one for now. So we're going to use this stencil like this, and I like to put it right in the center, because then it allows me to kind of have a nice tall hat as well as a nice long beard. So we're going to go like this. So remember, these guys have a lip right in the middle, and just set it down right there, and then just trace as much as I can. So first I'm going to do the top one, the top brim of the hat, and the lower brim. Now I'm going to do the outside right here, and that outside right there. Okay. Next, move on to the eye lines. That's the nose line right there, the bottom of the nose. Here's that cheek to beard connection right there. This line right here. This line right here. Don't do this section right here. That little line right there, that's just, kind of what needs to happen. Or this section right here, that does not need to happen. So, and then all you do, the last one is this mustache area. Or rather, the underside of the mustache. And that's what it should look like. So, if you were drawing that by hand, it'd probably look a lot nastier, or not nastier, but just, mine always end up being very rough. And yeah, if you start like that, it's probably gonna end up being a rough carving afterward. Anyway, so what I like to do is just kind of put a line there, indicating where this guy needs to go. So, yeah, right there. So I can kind of see my line through that nose hole right here. There we go. Perfect. Just make sure that you're keeping that lip up against the piece of wood so it doesn't slip. The great thing is that you can see that everything is starting to line up. Those lines are exactly where they need to be. And you get nice, crisp lines. So here we are, simplifying the simplest carving ever done. Excellent. Look at that. Okay, this guy is ready to start carving. Let's go and do that. Okay, so first thing, I use No-Cry cut-resistant gloves, and then a glove on my right hand that's not necessarily cut-resistant, but it allows me more grip when I'm using these knives. And this is a flex cut large roughing knife. You don't need a large roughing knife. You could use a detail knife, you could use a chip carving knife, whatever you like, whatever you have really. I've ground this one to be a little bit more aggressive. You can see that it has a very sharp point, and I've also taken off the micro bevel and ground it down myself. But that's just how I like my knives. Anyway, great knife. Get yourself whatever it is that you're comfortable with. Okay, so go ahead and start carving. We're going to do the bottom of the nose first. So I put it right there on the line, and just give it a little bit of a rocking motion, using my left thumb to really get leverage in there. And so we're going to do multiple of these. This is a stop cut, so I'm just going to come up and stop the cut right there. So right there and right there. Don't worry too much about cutting exactly to the line. It doesn't need to be super exact. You can always come up and clean up the carving a little bit afterward. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so yeah, one of the things that you'll notice is that we start erasing our lines. But the cool thing about this is that since the lines are right there, you'll know kind of where it is that you need to put that peak. Okay, so just remove the rest of this guy right here. Okay, before we get too much further along, let's go ahead and put that line back in there. So it's much easier to start drawing them once you already have the lines in there. Cool. Okay, so from here, I like to do the eyes. The eyes and the brim. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my knife right here, just score it lightly, as well as the nose. And this is the tricky one. The knife does not go perpendicular to this face. It needs to go perpendicular to the back of the piece of wood. So like this. Okay, so you're holding it like this. Put the tip of your knife in and slice downward. So let me see what I'm doing. And I'm stopping right where the nose ends. Okay, and now I can bring my knife in, come up, and I'm trying to remove that chip. See, coming out. Excellent. So let's go ahead and do the other side. So in this case, I put my knife right here and score downward. And now I have to hold it upside down so I can pull the knife towards me. Just like that. Clean that up just a little bit. Look at that. Those eyes are almost perfectly even. That's excellent. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the brim of the hat. So we're going to do the forehead, really. So scoring that line as you go all the way out. And we're going to take this opportunity and do the side right here. So we're going to shape the side of the face. So there's not much there that you need to remove, so don't get overly aggressive, but there you go, like that. And then this lower side right here. So down. Excellent. Great. Okay. Make sure that's a nice deep score. And when you get to this last point, don't let the tip of your knife get all the way to the end, otherwise it'll slip downward, and whatever's back there you're going to cut. That's how I cut a hole in this glove. Don't worry, I have more in the mail. They're coming here like next week. So, alright, after you've scored it, just go ahead and remove some of that material up to that stop cut. It's like a really prolonged stop cut. And so the reason we didn't do this first is because it would have erased the lines of our eyes. So we took advantage of that and just made the eyes first. Okay. It's not super deep that you need to take that material off. About 1/8 of an inch is gracious plenty. I guess that's probably a 1/16 or so. Okay, so yeah, like that. And then if you want, you can come back and deepen the eyes a little bit. Whatever's your liking. Okay, so let's go and do the other side. So score it. You get to the end. Use the big part of the knife. Almost do a rock cut. I mean a rocking cut, not a rock cut. I don't know what that is. Okay. There we go. Excellent. Let's score it just a little bit deeper. There. Rock it back and forth at the end. And remove that material. That is looking good. Okay, I want to deepen these eyes just a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good, pretty even. Happy with that. And if you want, you can round over the nose or just leave it the way it is. I'm pretty happy with the way it is right now, so let's just leave that. So now we're going to move on to the rest of the face, which is the beard section. So I'm going to show you how I use a V-tool to get these lines over here. So it's really, so instead of scoring it with a knife, the knife can kind of move on you, can skip, or kind of, it won't stay where it is that you want it to. So it's best sometimes to score it with a V-knife, with a V-tool. So just take that and score that. So you're essentially just tracing all the lines, and what this does is it allows the knife a place to ride in. So we're just going to do half the mouth with the V-tool. And I'm going to show you on the other side how I use the knife to score all that. So that's on the left side. So now I'm going to come in with my knife, and you can see it just kind of sits in there. It's quite nice. Right? So nowhere for the knife to go other than the deepest part of that V-tool mark. Okay, and same right here. So you could totally do this without a V-tool. Just put your knife in like this and trace it on down. But you can see, like, the knife did not follow that line exactly because there was no pre-traced line for it to go, for it to follow. But just showing you that it can be done just with a knife. Okay, excellent. Okay, and now it's just a matter of tucking things under other things. So first we're going to start off with the mouth. So what I like to do is this guy right here. And we're going to separate the mouth a little bit from the rest of the mustache. Excellent. Now we're gonna have the mustache be the highest piece of facial hair, so you can see what we're doing right here. Okay, so that means that we got to work on these pieces first. Okay, and I want the face to kind of have a rounded effect. I want it to be so square. I want it to have a little bit of rounding over right there. Okay, and now this piece right here. Excellent. Okay, and then the face. Now I need to cut the side of the nose right here a little bit. So I have this piece of wood loose. There we go, just like that. Excellent. Now let's do the other side. And the same thing. Make sure that you have scored it with your knife. Okay, and then we can round over the mustache just a little bit. So just take your knife and slice a little bit off. Okay, same thing on the other side. Excellent. Looks great. Cool. And just round over the very end of the nose to get rid of those pencil lines. And the same thing right here. And on this side right here. Well, that looks pretty good. Okay, let's do the brim of the hat. Same thing, I'm going to use the V tool. Same thing. Just put the knife in like this. When we get to the end, rock it. And take off that wood. There you go. That's how you get a face for a 5-minute wizard. I don't know who named it the 5-minute wizard because it certainly does not take just 5 minutes, especially not when you're starting off. Okay, so this beard, this is about a 4.5 inch long stick, maybe 5 inches. Anyway, so in this case it was too short to do this little indent right here, but I'd like to include it because it, I don't know, it gives it some character. Okay, so we're going to do something like that. Take my knife. And just round it over right here and take off that section. And now see what's going on there, and we're gonna make that indent a little bit more pronounced. And then it's just a matter of kind of going back and making sure that the proportions look fine, right? So I took off a little bit here because it just wasn't, it was too square up here. So now I'm looking at this, I'm saying, hey, shucks, maybe it's a little bit less right here. And a little bit less right here. Okay. Looks pretty good. Alright, so yeah, you could probably spend all day on the beard and taking off little bits here and there, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to move on to the hat now. So, I like this hat, but I like this hat much more. And I think it being taller, we're going to try to do something like this. So, all goes right here. Has a little bit of a upturn like that. Try to do this. And there's the rest of the hat. So I'm not gonna lie, this tends to be a little bit trickier hat style sometimes, but I think we can manage it. So just taking off all the sides, as much of the sides that I can before I get to the front face. this. Now I'm going to remove the material from underneath the ball, and I do that by doing V-cuts on the side. Okay, and the same thing for the top of the ball. Right here, V-cut. This is tricky because that piece of wood is now very, very fragile. And I have definitely had that piece of wood just completely fall off on me. But now if we round it over just a little bit, we'll be in shape. Oh, see, some of it came off now. That's okay, that's why we left a whole lot on there. Okay, so now we just start shaping it. We're going to take off a lot from the top and all the way back. Okay, now let's round it over a little bit on this side. Give it a swoop. Kind of a upturn like that. Okay, now this guy. This is the one that's a little bit tricky, like I was saying. So you'll notice a couple things. This ball is recessed back in, and this hat turn, as you can see, the angle of it is like this. So it's not straight like this, it's turned. So we're going to try to work that into our design. So first thing is, the hat and that line are completely in the same, they're in the same line. So like this. Good. And now I'm going to separate the ball from that hat. Okay, so like this. Now I'm going to chase that hat. And the same thing with the ball, except I'm going to try to leave it a little bit further forward. Now it's just a matter of cleaning it up a little bit. So make that crevice there a little bit deeper. And making the center of it deeper. Let's see how that's looking. It's okay. Alright. Round over the top. One tip that I have for making these hats kind of look a little bit more three-dimensional is rounding over the back into the back of the piece of wood. So you'll see, so let's do it right here. So instead of keeping it look at an angle like this, turning it so that this, the angle of this face right here is kind of tucked underneath the carving, and that gives it a little bit more of a three-dimensional look. Otherwise, if it's just splayed out flat like that, you're like, oh hey, that's just a regular carving. But once you do that, has a different appeal to it. Make it even. Let's get rid of these pencil lines. And really, all you gotta do now is just take off that normal surface, that original surface of the piece of wood, and it completely transforms it. Right? You can still see the grain here from when it was processed or however it was cut to be that stock piece of wood. And all I'm doing is kind of taking some of that off. So even right here, you see? And by doing so, you introduce the facets from the knife. So the knife leaves these faces behind, and it looks very appealing to have those all around. Just a little bit more cleanup to do. And look at that, the hat is taking us just as long as the face. Okay. And this will be one of your best friends, a little brush like this. Something that's not going to leave any marks behind. It's excellent for getting off any stray pieces of wood, any bristles that are kind of hanging out. And the last thing over here that I want to do is take off this edge on the hat. And as you can see, I'm going downhill on the grain. I'm not going, this would be going uphill, because as you can see, the fibers of the wood are going up and down, so I would catch into the fibers if I did this. And it's still working, and that's because my knife is very sharp. But if that wasn't the case, it would catch, and it would probably not leave such a nice look behind. Okay, and I just want to knock off those hard edges right there. Just a little bit. Okay, and there you are. There's the simplest carving made even simpler. Hope you guys enjoy and that you can carve one yourself. And it takes you less time than me. I would love to see your creations. Thank you guys for watching.